Good morning and welcome to A Closer Look. I'm your host, Linda Fontaine. Today, my guest is the new mayor of Kingsport, Pat Shull. Thank you for being here, Pat.
Thank you for having me.
Well, of course, anytime. Now, Pat is our mayor, but he's also my friend. His wife's one of my best friends, and so I've known you a good while. Tell us, though, for people that don't know you, Pat, talk to me. Tell me a little bit about Pat Shull so people can get to feel like they know you.
Okay. Well, first, it's interesting that you introduced me as the new mayor. That's been happening a lot lately. I took office on July 1st, and I keep wondering that when are they going to quit introducing me as the new mayor?
It's true.
And maybe it's a good thing to be called the new mayor, because if they drop that, then I'll get blamed for everything people are upset about, I guess. But well, I grew up in Kingsport. My dad was a physician here. I'm a Dobbins-Bennett graduate, did Lincoln School, Robinson School, and went off to the Citadel and was commissioned a second lieutenant in the Army and did a career in the Army of 26 and a half years. Along the way, I picked up a master's degree at University of Tennessee and met my wife, Mary, during the first Persian Gulf War. I was up on the border between Saudi Arabia and Iraq. This was February 1991, and she ducked in my work tent, got a sandstorm, had on her flak vest, chemical suit, weapon gear, helmet. Not that day, later on, I told her, for me, it was love at first sight. She told me I must have been in the desert too long. So no romance over there. She didn't count riding around the Humvee as a date, but we got to know each other a little better when we went back to Fort Stewart, and next thing I know, we got married in October '91. And eventually Mary got out of the Army, and so she could, devote time toward our children and keeping me straight, I guess. And but over the years, Mary and I would come back to Kingsport to visit my mom and dad, and we just decided that one day that we were going to retire after my last assignment at Fort Campbell and move back to Kingsport. So a lot of people remember Mary's Kitchen Shop downtown Kingsport.
Oh, yeah.
We had that for over 8 years, and I've been very involved in local affairs. I was an alderman for 4 years. Then I was a county commissioner for just under 7 years. And by the way, at the time I got elected mayor, I was a serving Sullivan County commissioner. And when I went door to door campaigning, people would ask me, well, are you going to stay on the county commission? Legally, I could have.
Okay.
But, the more I thought about it, I thought, no, I need to do one or the other. And of course, I just ran for mayor and got elected. So I resigned on the 30th of June, and they appointed someone to take my place, Joe Herron, good man. And so there's no real conflict now in, something the county's considering versus the city, and how does it affect both entities. So that's a little bit about me, I guess.
Yeah, and you have 2 kids.
2 children, grown children, 2
Yes.
dogs.
Yes.
Go to the dog park a lot.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. You do go
Yeah.
to the dog park a lot and walk your dogs. You're a good dog dad.
I
gotta
guess
give
so.
you that.
I guess
I
so.
give you that.
Yeah, they say in politics that if you want a friend, get a dog. So I have 2.
There you go. That's funny. I like that. So now that you've taken over the reins of Kingsport,
Yeah.
let's talk about that a little bit. What are some of the, when you were campaigning, for instance, I remember you mentioning, because I had all the candidates on the show one time, and you mentioned that you went door to door, which I thought
Yeah.
was huge and awesome, and that I think is very personal and had a lot
I
to
just
do
pulled
with
this
it.
out of my back pocket.
Oh, look at that. Yes.
I still got 3,000 of these if anybody needs wallpaper.
Vintage wallpaper. That's cool. But I remember you said that a lot of people mentioned that you were surprised, but one of the biggest concerns were potholes.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're working on an initiative to accelerate our road repair. It's looking pretty good right now. We think we're going to be able to come up with $500,000 more dollars, and leverage that to get a federal grant for another $2 million. So
Great.
that'd be great. The stipulation when you get a grant like that is you have to use it on what they call major roadways. A major roadway could be Watauga Street, could be Fort Henry Drive, and so forth. But that's great. We can just take the money we'd already planned for and shift it to more of the neighborhood streets. So I'm pleased that we're doing better on potholes and just street repair in general. But I'm sure that if any Kingsporter out there may be thinking, well, how come they hadn't gotten to my street yet? I mean, you know,
It takes time.
It'll take a while, but I think we're going to accelerate this process. One thing I ought to mention is that we do have a council manager form of government.
Okay.
The city manager is our full-time leader of the city staff handling the day-to-day business of the city. The board of mayor and aldermen, we're his boss. He works for all 7 of us. There's 6 aldermen and me as the mayor. But he's the only one we hire or fire, and he hires everybody else. So that's Chris McCart we're talking about, city manager, and he's pretty new. He took his job in the last week of June, you know, just a few days before I got sworn in on July 1st.
That's right, he replaced Jeff
So
Fleming.
sometimes it's hard for citizens to realize what does the board do versus what's the city manager do. But I look at it this way, that we're their elected representatives, and if they want to talk to us about anything, you know, that's fine. But we may very well refer them to either Chris or one of his staff members, because they may have the answer right at hand on simple day-to-day type things. But you know, the board's charged with the big policy decisions, particularly as to how we're going to spend money. You know, we have to develop the budget. With, of course, the city staff presents us their ideas, and but we have to approve it.
So what have been some of the major concerns or things that have come to your attention that you guys are working on?
Well, you know, this past Tuesday we had we had our work session followed by a business meeting. Now, ordinarily we would have had the work session on Monday, and then the Tuesday we would have had our business meeting where we vote. But we did it one after the other because of Labor Day. And so at our work session, we had between the presentation we received and the discussion, we had over an hour and a half review of homelessness. And then again, here we had the business meeting, and now, you know, they're televised, and of course public can come to all our meetings, work session, any kind of meeting. You know, that's our sunshine law says that's what we have to do. But several members of the public spoke about the homeless problem. I guess when I was running for mayor, I had this very traditional idea about the city that, you know, we do fire and police and water and garbage and all those basic city functions, but the citizens kind of reached out and expect the mayor to provide leadership on a wide variety of subjects, be it homelessness or their health care or whatever, things that are just not normally in our lane.
Right.
And so that's been the adjustment I've had to make, sort of mentally as much as anything, on how to address those kind of concerns. But so homelessness, how to combat that or address that is going to be a community effort. That the city can help provide leadership and facilitation of bringing people together and ensure that resources aren't unnecessarily duplicated or used in an inefficient manner or so forth. But I don't think the city can ever solve the problem, and we can't even manage it by ourselves.
Yes, I've noticed a bigger population, just seems, in the last several years, at least downtown, because I'm downtown, so I've seen a lot of convening around there.
I've seen some numbers, but you know, I mean, a guy could be here today and then leave tomorrow, so that it's a
fluid thing.
Yeah, it is very fluid, and but anecdotally, citizens will tell you that it seems to them that they've seen an increase in this, but it's a societal problem, just like drug addiction, drug overdose, that kind of thing. Broken families, maybe less fathers available to provide that important role model for children and so forth. So again, the city was kind of structured to deal with these basic public services, not necessarily to handle all the social services that are handled in other ways. But on the other hand, the city has to provide a sense of order within the city, and I'm committed to do that. I told folks that on my watch, if I have anything to do with it, we're not going to become a mini San Francisco or Los Angeles. We're going to maintain some order within the city. But our chief of police pointed out to us, being homeless is not a crime. You know, all citizens have certain rights, and so whatever we do, we're going to do in a thoughtful and legal way. Okay,
very good. So downtown, I know a lot of people talk about growing downtown. Now, again, you're talking about there's certain things you guys do, and that might not be it. As far as economically, what are you guys able to do? And we won't have time to get into that right now because we've got to go to a break. But when we get back, let's talk a little bit more about what it is you guys do as opposed to what the public thinks you should be doing.
Okay.
And how we can discern the two. And we will be back in just a minute after a word from our sponsors with a closer look.